New York Bar Practice Test 2026 New York Bar Exam Questions and UBE Attorney Test Prep Guide. Question 1. Under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, how many days does a defendant have to serve an answer after being served with a summons and complaint? 14 days, 21 days, 30 days, 60 days. Rule 12a generally gives 21 days, unless service is waived. Question 2. In torts, what are the 4 elements required to prove negligence? Intent, duty, breach, damages. Duty, breach, causation, damages. Offer, acceptance, consideration, legality. Offer, breach, intent, injury. Negligence requires a legal duty, a breach of that duty, proximate/actual causation, and actual damages. Question 3. Under the Statute of Frauds, which of the following contracts must be in writing to be enforceable? A contract for the sale of goods worth $100. A contract for services that can be performed in 6 months. A contract for the sale of an interest in land. A contract for a 1-month apartment lease. Land contracts are among the categories that must be in writing. My legs. Question 4. In constitutional law, strict scrutiny requires the government to prove that a law is rationally related to a legitimate government interest, substantially related to an important government interest, necessary to achieve a compelling government interest, fair and reasonable. Strict scrutiny is the highest level of judicial review for fundamental rights or suspect classifications. Question 5. Under the Fourth Amendment, a search occurs when the government violates a person's subjective desire for privacy, reasonable expectation of privacy, physical property only, right to remain silent. The Katz test defines a search as a violation of a reasonable expectation of privacy. Question 6. In evidence, hearsay is defined as any statement made by a witness, an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, evidence that is not relevant, a statement made under oath. Hearsay is generally inadmissible unless an exception applies. Question 7. In criminal law, what is the mens rea for a specific intent crime like larceny, negligence, recklessness, the intent to permanently deprive the owner of the property, general malice? Larceny requires the specific intent to steal. Question 8. Under the parole evidence rule, when a contract is fully integrated, a court will generally exclude evidence of a subsequent modification, evidence of prior or contemporaneous negotiations that contradict the written terms, evidence used to clarify an ambiguity, evidence of duress. The rule protects the integrity of written contracts by excluding prior contradictory oral or written agreements. Question 9. In real property, a joint tenancy requires the 4 unities. What are they? Time, title, interest, possession, land, sea, air, space, offer, acceptance, consideration, performance, trust, intent, delivery, acceptance. Joint tenancy requires the unities of time, title, interest, and possession. Question 10. In torts, strict liability applies to which of the following activities? Driving a car. Abnormally dangerous activities, example, blasting. Medical malpractice. Slip and fall in a grocery store. Strict liability is imposed regardless of fault for inherently dangerous activities. Question 11. Which clause of the 14th Amendment prohibits states from denying any person the equal protection of the laws? Due Process Clause, Equal Protection Clause, Privileges and Immunities Clause, Commerce Clause. The Equal Protection Clause is the basis for challenging discriminatory state laws. Question 12. In contracts, consideration is best defined as thinking very hard about the deal, a bargain for exchange of legal value, a gift given out of kindness, The moral obligation to perform. Consideration is a requirement for a valid contract, involving a benefit to the promisor or a detriment to the promisee. Question 13. Under the Miranda rule, when must a suspect be informed of their rights? During any police encounter, only after being charged with a crime, during custodial interrogation, when they arrive at the courthouse. Miranda warnings are required when a person is in custody and subject to interrogation. Question 14. In evidence, the best evidence rule requires that the most famous witness must testify, the original writing, recording, or photograph be produced to prove its content, hearsay be admitted if it's reliable, the jury must see the scene of the crime. The rule prefers the original document over a copy or testimony about its contents. Question 15. In civil procedure, diversity jurisdiction in federal court requires the parties be from the same state, the amount in controversy exceeds $75,000 and the parties be citizens of different states, a federal law be at issue, the President's permission. Diversity jurisdiction allows federal courts to hear state law claims between citizens of different states. Question 16. Respondeat superior is a legal doctrine that holds the victim responsible for their own injuries, an employer liable for the torts of an employee committed within the scope of employment, the government immune from lawsuits, the judge responsible for the verdict. It is a form of vicarious liability in agency and tort law. Question 17. In criminal law, murder at common law is the unlawful killing of a human being with negligence, malice aforethought, a weapon, premeditation only. Malice aforethought is the defining mental state for common law murder. Question 18. The Dormant Commerce Clause limits the power of the federal government to regulate trade, states to enact laws that unduly burden interstate commerce, individuals to buy goods online, foreign nations to tax U.S. goods. It prevents states from being protectionist or discriminating against out-of-state trade. Question 19. In real property, an easement is a type of mortgage, a non-possessory right to use the land of another, a way to transfer title quickly, a tax on property. Easements allow limited use, such as a right-of-way across a neighbor's yard. Question 20. Which of the following is an example of an excited utterance hearsay exception? A statement made in a business record, a statement relating to a startling event made while the declarant was under the stress of excitement, a statement of a dying person, a statement in a 30-year-old document. The stress of the event is thought to ensure the statement's reliability.